Hi guys, and welcome to this edition of Phyrefli's Video Digest. As always, thank you very much for watching. Now this week I'm going to talk about the ephemeral notion of community management, what it is, what it's supposed to do, and how it can be made better. So I guess we better start at the beginning, best place to always start, and look at what is community management. When talking about what is community management, there are really two very different perspectives to look at community management from. Now the first one of those is our perspective, which is a perspective that a gamer looks at community management. As gamers, what we're looking for principally is timely, accurate, honest information. If there's a problem with the game the developer knows about, we'd like to know. If there's a fix in the works, we'd like to know. If there's a feature that we have requested but is not going to be done, tell us. We prefer information up front rather than finding out later or it being held back. Now, from the point of view of the developer or the company, community management for them is something which is a much larger, more important, and it's almost a bit of a black heart for them. A community manager and the community management team sits between customer service and the developers. So for example, a customer manager is not somebody who will fix a bug. He's not somebody who will issue you a new key because you've lost yours or the dog's eaten the piece of paper it was on. A community manager is somebody who should have his pulse. He should be within the community. If there's a bug found, he really should be the first person who knows about it because he should be on Twitter or Facebook or other avenues and listening and finding out. If there is a problem with the master server, he should be the first one to find it and relay it back, and he's also the first point of contact for us as a community. Now I'll take DICE as a really good example of this. When we want to contact DICE, most of us will go straight to Zinto. Personally, I won't deal with people like Patrick Back or others. I will deal with Zinto because he's a community manager, he's our first point of contact. The community manager's job from the point of view of the company is to grow, to feed, to encourage the community, but also to guide it in the right direction. Now, I'll give you an example at the moment of a community that's going in the wrong direction. This is a closed beta I'm involved with in the moment. I can't tell you which one because I'll break the NDA. But up until about 3 weeks ago, most of the posts in the forum were along the lines of, here's an idea to make the game better. This weapon might be overpowered. Here's a suggestion to bring it back into line. This particular vehicle doesn't move as it should. This is an idea to make it better. So generally constructive posts from people who are passionate about the game. And about 3 weeks ago, a whole bunch of new people were brought into that beta, and the posts since then have changed. And they're starting to be, well actually they're not starting, they are now along the lines of, this weapon is OP, deal with it. This vehicle is pants, deal with it. This person is ruining my game, fix it. I don't want to play with this group of people, find me a way of making sure that when I go into a game, they're not there. And I'm actually literally telling you the posts that are in there, none of these have been made up. Now a community manager should be in there working with them, molding those people and making sure, again I'm saying this from the point of view of the company, not from us the players, he should be in there talking to them, finding out what their issues are and making it a much more positive place. That's not happening within that specific closed beta, and that's an example of what a community manager and management team should do but isn't. So that's kind of a brief thesis or a brief look at what community management is from the perspective of players like us and from the companies. So what I want to do now is take a look at good and bad community management. Now my poster boy for good community management has to be Two Dome Games and the community team and the devs over there. With them it's really very simple. If you've got a suggestion, you post it up in their forum, they respond almost immediately. If it's a good suggestion, it goes into one of the next builds. And I have seen this so many times where someone said, we need a certain kind of camera on spectate mode. Next build, it's there. or we need such and such a filter, a feature within the game, it's there. For some time now, Stoner from Team Rush has been talking to them about implementing squads. Guess what? We're getting squads. This team have been fantastic at keeping that community buoyant, keeping that community focused and helping, responding to questions. If they can't do something, they'll tell you. If they can do something, they'll tell you, and they'll do it. Now, the Two Dome guys are a very small team, let's be frank. There's, what, 3-5 people in there? Plus you've got several community members who are working with them to get the game out there and to get it well known, and they're doing a cracking job. Total Biscuit has done a video on them. They've had recently they've had some streams of live games that Stoner from Team Rush has done, and it's a game that's really developing nicely. It still has its bugs, but we're not here to talk about that. But the community management and the way that the devs and the community team interact with people is fantastic. I managed to get, well, I was given 5 game keys by one of their community managers. I gave them out as competitions. I approached them just after E3 because I'd recorded some footage at E3, and I asked them, I know it's an alpha build, I know you're not allowing people to release footage, but this is what I've recorded, this is where it is on YouTube, could I please release it? They came back within a couple of days and said, go ahead, fantastic. And that was mixed through main community manager. So that is how a good community management team works in concert with devs. It helps being a smaller company, obviously, but I've seen other small companies who aren't doing quite as well. Now I'll come back, that's a really good example. So Two Dawn Games and the Ravage game. That's a good example of what good community management is. They talk to their people, they listen to the gamers, they take ideas on board, they fix bugs, they're upfront, they're honest, and they let you know information, they don't hide things. Now I'll come back to to give an example of poor community management. I'll come back to the closed beta I mentioned in the first section of this video. Now, as I mentioned, they've had a long period where they've had pretty dedicated gamers in there, coming up with great, accurate, good feedback in the forums, letting them know features, coming up with ideas, all the stuff you'd expect from gamers who are really jazzed about a game. And then we had a huge influx of new players, and it's just gone to pot. Most threads are negative, most threads are saying this game's going to fail, blah, 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 blah. Now, prior to a few weeks ago, we used to get patch notes before the patch, and then we got patch notes on the day of the patch. And what's happened recently is that they've actually they let slip on Facebook of all places that there wouldn't be a patch in this period. Now this is not a big deal in the great scheme of things. However, that's the first time that they had slipped up and put information outside the closed beta forums and stuck it somewhere else. That is bad community management, because a lot of people then turn around and said, hey guys, you've been on a sliding scale now for several weeks and your management of your community is really, really slipping. You need to pull it together. And the other thing in that particular community is that they are now, with the new people coming in and the new threads, there's nobody in there from the team responding to them in a timely manner. There's no one saying, well, this is, yeah, fair enough, we can do this, or we'll put it onto the list, or sorry guys, we can't do it. No one's responding to those kind of threads, and it's a shame, because up until that point, that particular developer had a very, very good relationship, and it seems to have just turned around over the last few weeks and gradually going downhill. I do hope they pull it back, I really do. Now, of course, I can't mention bad community management without mentioning our old friends, DICE. As you probably guessed over the digest, I've got quite a positive attitude towards Daniel Matross-Cinto. And there's various reasons for that. I've worked with him on several projects. I've always found him a very pleasant gentleman to deal with. Always found him pretty easygoing. I've had some one-on-one chats with him, and I can certainly understand the position and the positions that he finds himself in. But while researching this video, I looked at what makes a good community manager, what he's supposed to do, but also the backing that a good community manager is supposed to have from his company, because this is not just simply a one-man band. If you look at the millions of units that, for example, Battlefield 3 have sold, and they've got one global community manager. One. Can you imagine how many tweets that guy and emails that guy gets a day? There's no way on this earth he's going to be able to respond to even 1/100th of it, let alone all of them. What DICE need, first of all, is a team of global community managers. They've got one or two others, but whoever hears from them, because I certainly don't, it's always Zinto, and he's always the one that gets the crap from us, the gamers. Rightfully so, you could add, because he is the contact that we have. But DICE are giving Zinto no backup whatsoever. If he's got issues and he puts them up bugs or something similar, he puts them up the chain, nothing ever comes back down. If you want to actually have a first-hand indication of that in action, just look at the feedback that you guys gave, I collated up to Zinto. He's already posted that went further up the stream. What have we got back from it? Nothing. So when you're dealing with community management, you don't just have a community manager or a management team. You've got to have the company that employ them. They have got to be behind that team or that person and supporting them. And we can see logically that DICE isn't doing that with Daniel Matros. They're just not giving him the support that he needs or requires. So I've mentioned this before in Mordor HQ, and I'll mention this here. If you're ever wanting to send well, let's call it an irritated tweet across to someone like Daniel or across to other people within DICE, don't do it. Send it to @Battlefield. Make sure those tweets go in there. For one thing, you're not throwing abuse at an individual person, which is always, it's never good anyway, but it also means that it's going back to DICE. It's not going to Zinto. And that means that hopefully they will get the information and get an idea. It's very poor form from DICE's point of view and from DICE's position to have somebody out there hanging like a hanky in the breeze that we can all take aim at, and for DICE to stand back and say, his job, nothing to do with us, because that's effectively what DICE are doing right now. So that's a bit of a lengthy section on what is good community management, and again I'll take $2, my poster boy for that. And bad community management, I can't mention the name, but the closed beta that I'm in at the moment, and of course our old friend DICE. So the next section is kind of a conclusion, some things that I think can be done better in terms of community management from different companies, and yep, so I'll see you in the next section. Good community management is something that can be done not fairly easily, but with just a little bit of hard work. From a player's point of view, as I mentioned before, what we require is timely, accurate, honest information. If, for example, the patch is going to be delayed, let us know as far in advance as possible. If there's a feature that everyone's been requesting, but for whatever the reason is not going to be in, let us know, and preferably let us know the reasoning behind it. Now this is one area where I have to say I can praise DICE. Although I don't agree with their decision not to have mod tools for Battlefield 3, they were very clear and very categorical about the fact that it's not going to be there. No issues, no question marks, it's not going to be there. That actually was a good piece of community management. The fact they didn't have them in there, hey, completely disagree with, but they let us know. So that's an example of something negative which has clearly been stated that this is going to happen, so we know about it. And that should follow through with any kind of news, positive and especially negative. Let the community know, let them be aware of it so they can factor it in. Another thing where I find an awful lot of community managers and management teams go wrong, and this is something that is a real personal bugbear because this drives me insane. And it breaks most of the marketing tenets out there as well. If you have a game or a game that you're developing or you've released, inevitably you have a website for it. That website should be your #1 principal source of information to your customers, your clients, people like you and me, gamers. If I want to know what's happening within the Ravaged universe, I go to toodongames.com. If I want to know what's happening with PlanetSide 2, I will go to planetside2.com. Battlefield should be the same thing. If I want to know what's happening, I should be able to find out at Battlefield. Now, when Battlefield 4 was announced, it said on that particular webpage that any information posted anywhere else is just rumours, all information will be here. And yet a day or two later, what do we have on Reddit? Information. There's information going out on Facebook, information going out on Twitter. If you're a gamer, how many gamers have time to look through so many different channels and websites to find information that should be in one central place? Now please understand me, I'm not saying that there should be a moratorium on asking questions on Reddit or putting tweets out. There shouldn't be. They're very valid and very useful avenues to contact and talk to your community, gamers like us. But information should be kept centrally in one place so it's easily findable by everyone. If you're asking questions on, for example, Reddit, make sure there's a link to that thread from your main website. If you're sending out tweets, make sure you've got a list of tweets on your main website. Ditto for Facebook. It's basics, but it's something that almost every single developer out there is responsible for, and almost every single community manager and management team does. So please guys, if you have one central place for information, yes, talk to gamers from other places, absolutely, but always make sure that information is duplicated in one central place. Well, that was a little rant from me, I do apologise for that. It's something that really winds me up, as you can probably tell. Well, that's it for this edition. It's been all about community management, the good, the bad, the ugly, how it can be improved, and obviously things that some developers do wrong. And as we know, that is a favourite subject and a favourite target for that kind of thing. I hope you've enjoyed the digest. I've quite enjoyed putting this one together. It's been one I've been wanting to do for quite a while. If you have enjoyed the digest, please give me a like on YouTube, and if you've really enjoyed it, please subscribe to me on YouTube. That's it for this week. Enjoy your gaming. Take care.